Hi, guys. My name is Amina K. Thornton. You are listening to the One Up podcast. You can get the links to the podcast by going to anchor.fm/one up spelled out. Thank you guys for being a subscriber. To see these live videos from these sessions, you can go to amina.media in your browser to get to the YouTube content. Thank you guys for also being subscribers at the YouTube channel. Today we have another message of hope. Stories from struggle to success. And we are welcoming on Danny here. Danny, you're going to have to say your last name for me. I am not too great with those.
No problem. My last name is Monzon, so Danny Monzon.
Monzon?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. That actually is different than I thought. Monzon, right?
Yes, that is actually,
I like it.
The Spanish pronunciation of it. Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Okay, I'm going to turn you up here so I can hear you a little bit better. So just bear with me a second.
No.
Okay, there we go. I can hear you now better. Okay, so you are episode number 20. I'm excited. So we're at a milestone here number. And on your story, I know that you said that you were a nightclub promoter in New York City and that you are now a digital agency, but then you speak at prisons. Is this what it is?
Well, yeah, a little bit of both. That's my outside of work purpose project, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's something that you're just passionate about that you go and do?
Yes, and that obviously is tied to a personal story and some personal experiences. So absolutely would love to share some of that and what I do for work and, fun stuff.
Yeah. So where do you want to start? Where do you want to begin?
Okay. Well,
Explaining?
that depends on which chapter of my story you'd want to uncover. So maybe we'll go through a few.
Yeah, let's
so
lay down
so
the pace.
Okay, awesome. So you introduced me. Yes, let's start there as a former nightclub promoter. So let's start there. Yes, I back, and this will reveal my age a little bit. I'm not as young as I look. Back in 1999, I was a club promoter, and I did that for about 4 years in New York City, right? So
Yeah.
that was my nighttime job. In my daytime job, I was an employee at a marketing agency, right? And little did I know that was my school, my opportunity to learn about marketing, right? I did
And
not.
this isn't digital marketing at that time because we're talking 99. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of data entry and analyzing some data, right? And
Okay.
some,
Yeah.
so I
I
was,
did data entry. Yeah, in the early. Yeah, about that time too. So yeah,
that
kind of forget
evolved.
about that period. Yeah, the data entry period.
Yes, absolutely. So that evolved into more analytics, diving deep into the analytics that matter at that time for print ads and for
Yeah.
television ads. So I would spend a
Oh,
lot
very
of
cool.
time, browsing through magazines and identifying some advertisers that would pay us to basically to gather
Advertise?
data on their competitors and vice versa, right? So I was doing a lot of those things.
So you had the agency that you were working for had you go through. I'm just making sure I had this right. So go through magazines and then reach out to those companies to advertise with them or to run their ads. I guess it would be right.
It was mostly gathering some advertisers that we would be hired to seek out for, right? So let's say a telecommunication company is wanting to know about their competitors. So we'll gather
Oh, okay. So you did research
data on
too.
them. Yeah, so it was
Okay.
competitive research in analytics, right? So
Okay. Yep.
so
Before
so
digital. Before.
yeah,
It was
so I
online.
was doing a lot of manual work and data entry for a number of years, and that position kind of evolved into a more into a role of a supervisor, so to speak. So I was in charge of a small team, and in there I got exposed to creative copywriters and a lot of intricacies in how to get the attention through print advertising to, to your target audience. So I got,
Okay.
I spent some time there, and then my nighttime job was I was a club promoter.
Yeah.
I was single. I was partying a lot, so I said, you know what, I'm going to also monetize my, the friends that I bring into the parties, and that started to take off. I started to promote some of the most infamous nightclubs,
Very cool.
In New York City
Yeah.
back then, and
Yeah.
kind of graduated into the more trendy, elegant, exclusive spots.
Yeah. So you went and basically found more people to come to these clubs too, right? Is that what you were doing? Okay.
Yes, and I had to learn the hard way. I first you would grab a box of flyers and pass them around, Times Square at
Yeah.
different hours during the day or night, snowing or whatever, right? And I would see that people look at my flyers and they throw them away, right? And I'm like,
Nobody pays attention to flyers anymore.
right. But back then I was a lot of guerrilla marketing. It was either
Yeah, true.
and we'd have teams around New York City, around Manhattan,
And passing
outside of
around.
clubs and that sort of thing. And I remember, because I would get paid according to how many people get recorded going through the club and mentioning my name, right? That was a
Okay. Okay.
very
Yeah.
primitive way of keeping track, right? So
I
I
did
would
door-to-door sales, so a lot of flyers with my name on it, and then half the people are like, "I don't know how to say their name," so they
and
didn't
then
even say it.
so as a promoter, you had, in New York, you had to have a creative name, a name that people will remember. So
Oh yeah,
we had
yeah.
Johnny Premier and and New Jersey Nick, and I was
That's a
Danny
good way to
Nice.
do it. That's a
I was
good.
Danny Nice, right? Everybody would remember, right? So I was Danny Nice, and I would have the flyers either printed out, or I would spend a lot of time, putting the labels on with my
Yeah.
email address, and
Or you get the
people,
stamp now, right? Get the
all
stamp.
the time,
Be
and
done.
people look at my flyers and throw them away. So I was like, hey, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
I'm spending all this time here. I was like, people are throwing my flyers away. Of course, I was spamming people. Little did I know, it's like I was spamming people. Like, look, here's my
Yeah.
flyer. Like, I'm not even
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't do that. Yeah.
right. So I said, you know what? I'm going to scan this flyer. Remember, I was going to scan these
Yeah.
flyers,
I
and I'm
remember
going to.
I remember taking a piece of paper and putting cutting out stuff and to make the different types of fonts, right? And then you would put it on it, and then you put tape, right? And then you put it on the scanner and scan it and be like, it's amazing.
You get creative, right? You get creative. So I did that. I said, you know what? I'm going to scan this flyer with my, name on it, and I'm
Yeah.
going to post it in the forums back then, right? You remember the
Okay.
forums,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. I think that was the
nightclubcity.com?
only that was before social, like actual
Yes.
social,
That
like
was the
media,
beginning of, of
pre-social.
like group interactions and rooms, right? So AOL. So I said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna publish my invitation in clubplanet.com, cooljunkie.com, nightclubcity.com,
Okay.
started the big forums, and that's when things started to happen. That's when,
Oh, oh,
I
okay.
mean, and
Because
things
everybody was getting computers. Like, what am I gonna do with this thing? Because we didn't have Google.
yes.
We didn't
Oh,
have
I
Google
had
back then, guys. I mean,
exactly. I
I
had
was
an
just telling.
old gateway.
I was just telling my daughter this the other day. I was like, there was no color. I was like,
It was like green, right? It was like a green screen, and
I think we got lucky if we saw some blues, right? There was like hardly any color. I remember we were very limited.
yeah. Well, I go back to the days of Atari, so that's
Yeah. Yeah. Atari is awesome. Yeah.
I'm
I have an
43. I'm
Atari.
43 years old, so I know about AOL and dial-up,
Yep.
connectivity.
Yeah.
You've got mail, like, right? Like nowadays, it's like, oh, I don't even want to.
I remember being like, I went to the next page. I'm like, all right, it's gonna be like 20 minutes. Let me go make some lunch.
Yeah.
It was so slow.
Yes. So that story, or that combination
Yeah.
of working in the marketing agency during the day and during the night, being exposed to things that were working for me and things that were not working. That led me to, and I did not go to college for marketing. In fact, I did not go to college at all. I got kicked out of high school twice from the same school. So that has that in my story kind of evolves with a few other variables there as you learn.
You already started planning like doing this marketing and having like the nightclub promotion job. So you were just like, well, I don't need like a degree. I don't need like somebody to tell me I could do this. I'm just gonna start doing it.
Well, and as a kid from New York, you just try to, whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes to, help. My mother was single back then, right? My little brother did decide to go to college,
Okay.
so I just wanted to work. I just wanted to make some money, and it's not that I was a bad student. It was that what was being taught, it was not of interest to me. So I didn't go to class, right? I spent a lot of time, in the handball courts and the basketball courts, but it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't that I got kicked out for something dramatic or anything like that. I just was not interested. So I went and got my GED. Got the thing taken care of real quick. I went to the fast way there, and I cut some corners. But I just wanted to get that over with and start working. So make a long story short, right? I came to the United States when I was 13 years old. So let's backtrack a little bit. I was born in Colombia, right? So you'll
I
hear
explained your accent.
you hear some of that accent, maybe that, growing up in New York, and being exposed to, my Italian friends from Brooklyn and et cetera, et cetera. Maybe so,
good mix.
That, right? A little bit of a mix. And so I came to the United States when I was 13 years old, right? It was an amazing part of my life, right?
So you moved straight into New York at that time.
Yes.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
growing up
New
in
York's
Colombia.
amazing. I haven't been too many times, but I've been a few, and
Really?
It's busy. Yeah. It's very busy.
Depending on what, of course, depending on what city you go to,
cool.
it can get busy, it can get, risky, but it's, that's where I'm from, right? And back then, school was so strict for me, right? I went to Catholic school, and I had to wear the uniforms and everything. We have to be well groomed and have a white handkerchief on this pocket and a red one here for your shoes, and like it was very, very strict.
So what was the white one for? So we know the red one's for shoes. What was the white one for?
Or yourself, right? Okay, cool. And a comb. In every morning they'll check to make sure you have your
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and very, very strict, right? So coming to the U.S. and getting into the New York public school environment, right, has so many things that were awesome to me. Like I didn't have to wear a uniform, sneakers, shorts, and I even saw some kids, with piercing at my age, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Right? Yeah.
Well, piercings, I think, was like that, like the rebel thing then too. It was like if you didn't have a normal piercing, like I had this one since I was 18. If you had like a weird one, everybody was like, oh my God, like what is that?
So that was very impactful to me as a young kid, right? But I also got bullied, right? I was also learning English, and New York public school environment in Queens, New York, was rough. And, I got beat up and I got bullied for the first 6 months or so, but then I became a bully.
Oh, okay.
What does a kid do when that happens?
Yeah, get in.
Very, impressionable. And so that tends to happen, right? So I started hanging out with the kids that got, the bad attention, and that sort of, as a young kid, I was identified with that. I kind of like that, independent, spirit and rebel, spirit. And, but, that didn't pay off too well for me, because I I resisted guidance. I resisted, advice, and I made some mistakes along the road, right? That caught up to me sometime later. I lived in the United States 24 years without the proper documents,
Oh,
right?
interesting. So
Yes. So
your mom, you moved over with your mom and another sibling?
yes,
Okay, and
yes.
she never got the chance to go through the
We
documentation
never
process?
resolved that, and we didn't
Yeah.
want to do the things that a lot of people do, as far as getting married
Yeah.
for your
That's
documents.
hard,
Or
ain't
back
it?
then back then
That's
people were
hard.
having kids, because back then, in the 90s, you're allowed to have a kid, and you
And
have a kid
then
in the
be
United
over.
States, and
Yep.
now you're scored.
Yep.
People were doing things like that, and my
Such
family
a
and I
wrong way
were
to do it, though, you know?
absolutely, like, my family and I were very not into, and it wasn't as hard to live in New York City, in without status, because
Yeah,
it's New York, and it was pre 9/11, and a lot of things were relaxed.
it was. Yep.
Well, things got a lot tighter, right? I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, because the promoting thing was working,
Yeah.
right? It was working so well that it was my own demise. I started partying a lot, and I started doing a lot of drugs. I lost my
Uh,
girl,
yeah.
and I was like, you know
Uh-oh.
what? I'm out. I have to leave, because this is working, but I'm going nowhere fast. So I
Yeah.
came to Florida, and I rehabbed. This wasn't like from day to night. It wasn't
Oh,
overnight,
it was
but
it was? So you recognize it and like, I don't want to be like this.
yeah,
I don't want my life to go down this path any longer. So I'm just gonna totally take myself out of this environment and move down to Florida. And so
yeah.
Florida has the rehab program that you were in. Is that what it is?
My rehab program was just getting out of New York.
Yeah,
you
I know.
know,
I kind of had that feeling. Yeah,
you know, like
the
I,
atmosphere right?
and this is, I can attest to that. Nobody can, no matter what program you choose, if you're not ready and willing to go through, through those to get clean, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
On the other side of the coin, you don't have to go through a program to get clean.
Yeah.
That, and I can attest to that, right? So my rehab, so to speak, was making some decisions, some drastic ones too, and some painful ones, because
Yeah.
I grew up in New York. I had relationships in New York, my friendships in New York, my short-lived influence as a club promoter. I came here and I didn't know anybody. I was just another pedestrian waiting for the bus when people were just passing me by, here in Florida. And but I said, well, I left New York for a reason, and I'm gonna stick it out. And I had to go through the depression, and to like, what am I doing here? And like, these people are looking at me like, and they're waving at me like, well, like they know me or something. Yeah, totally
It's
culture
totally
shock.
different change. Yeah, yeah.
Culture
I can
shock.
see
Now,
that. I can see that.
now I'm the
Jacksonville, right?
neighbor
You
who
said Jacksonville?
compliments.
Yeah, I can see that. So I'm like, hi, neighbor. And you're like, wait, nobody does this in New
Yeah,
York.
like
What
you
do they
like it or
want?
something? Like, you know me?
Yeah.
I would call my friends like, these people are weird. They wave at you, you know. But
We have people around my area here. I wave to
who are you?
people, when, like we see like neighbors or something on the street, like, hey. And then it's weird because, you get those people that move in from different areas and like, that you kind of know. And so you wave to them and they're just like, like, oh, so they must not be friendly. No, but I realize, it
Total
is a different.
culture
It's
shock,
different.
and I would call my friends and say, like, these people, are very friendly. I was not used to that in New York. You don't have eye contact for that long, otherwise you're offending somebody, right?
I, there's a lot of people. I just remember just like, wow, I can't believe there's so many people like on a block. Like it's just,
It's just,
yeah.
one, they're, and the
I
right
just
way,
remember
it's
like certain
the
areas,
environment.
like I went through because I was mostly in Times Square. I stayed
Yeah,
there for like 4 days.
yeah. Oof.
some areas of Times Square, like the streets and stuff, you're just like trying to like kind of navigate through the people. It's like, oh my goodness, who knew? Like,
Yes, absolutely. And but the same, I guess, differences that exist between an environment like New York City and now Northeast Florida. I'm here in Jacksonville. It's not Miami. It's not Orlando.
yeah.
It's just Northeast Florida. So a lot of differences. One, people move a lot slower here, and they take a little longer to make decisions, and that is an advantage to me, I feel, because I'm constantly moving, I'm constantly meeting people, I'm constantly seeing how I can get involved and serve my community, and that has paid off dividends that I never really expected, right? Being a,
I do notice that there's a huge difference between East and West Coast. I noticed too, because here in the East Coast, I'm near DC, so
yeah,
everything is like go 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 go, and there is no stopping or slowing down. But then when I go, towards the East Coast, or I interact with people that are on the East Coast, they're more relaxed. They're just like, so we got like
yeah,
5 minutes. Let's sit around for a bit. It's like, are you sure? Like, are we gonna like run
yeah,
over time or something?
yeah,
Yeah, there is a difference. And then, like you said, when you move down to where you're at in Florida, it is very relaxed there, which is nice, but it
yeah.
also does give you an advantage. It does.
Yes, yes. There's definitely advantages, and there are also some what I consider social differences. That from New York to here, I never really saw segregation, racism as vivid here
Okay.
in Jackson. As uh, in New York, where I had friends of different
Oh,
colors,
yeah.
creeds, religions, and here is less less diverse, less accepting. So I saw that, and without getting into the topic, it was one of those things, like I was like, wow, I
Yeah.
didn't realize that really
It's true.
exists here
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
like,
True. Yeah.
yeah,
Different areas would have that, I guess, because certain as that culture, I guess, grew in that area, they connect with, I guess, more of their cultures. So they tried to protect their culture in a way.
yeah, yeah,
I
it's
don't think I don't think a lot of it's intentional, but they're just comfortable, and then
yeah,
they're
yeah.
not used to it, I guess.
Yes, and it takes a lot for me to be offended. I tend to think I have a thick skin, and I grew up in a big city, and my story also has presented a lot of uncertainty. So I think that's why I've a little, what is the word? Um, let me backtrack a little, and then you'll probably make a conclusion,
Okay.
because that ties into, why does this guy speak at prisons, right? That's probably like people are wondering. So how do I tie those? So when I mentioned that, a lot of my living la vida loca caught up to me, 24 years into my overstay here in this country, right? We had like three
Yeah.
months to 3 months to stay. We were just supposed to go to Disney World, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay,
So
interesting. Yeah.
24 years later, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the federal judge threw the book at me, said, wait a second, you 24 years, you have
You could
30
be like,
days.
well, my mom brought us over, and I was only 13 at the time. I wasn't.
But
How am I supposed
yeah,
to do this thing?
yes, you have 30 days to leave the country, and
Wow.
threw the book at me.
Wow.
And I was detained. I was detained in a federal facility in Miami with an orange jumpsuit and a
Wow.
bad hair day, right? And I got to see that, and I got to experience that, and I didn't know it was going to be 40 days.
So how did you like go and apply for driver's license or something? And they'd be like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. How did
I
they even like know? Or they just come to your house?
No, so it was an ordeal that when I made the transition to coming from New York City
Yeah.
to here, I earned a DUI,
Uh,
right?
okay.
And I was partying still, so
Yeah.
that raised a lot of flags until I reached that rock bottom And I said, you know what? I moved out of New York for a reason.
Yeah.
I can't
Doing
be,
that, Jared.
like, I'm not like, uh, uh, unintelligent enough to understand that if I follow some of these patterns, I'm backtracking.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
move to New York, out of New York and leave what I had there, to come back and do the same. So I had to go through my own learning process, my own, humble pie, so to speak, right? Again,
Yeah.
and understand that only insane people expect a different result if you're doing the same thing over and over.
There's a good quote by by Einstein that says that too. He basically says, I don't think I can get it off the top of my head right here, but it's basically like, yeah, like only crazy people think that you can only
Yeah,
do
it's
like
definition
the same pattern and expect a
of
different
insanity.
result. And expect a different result. It's
Exactly.
like, yeah, it makes you really think. Like, yeah, you're right. Why am I
Like,
doing the same
like
thing?
how genius is
Something
that,
different.
right?
He was
Like,
very good at simplifying stuff.
absolutely. So during that quest, right? I was detained. I had a federal warrant. I wasn't supposed to be in this country. I had already raised their flag, and they came and they picked me up. They're like, "You're not supposed to be in this country," and it's been 24 years. And this was after I was, making the shift into a productive member of society, and establishing relationships here and roots here in my community. This
Oh
happened.
yeah.
This happened, and I was totally, taken out of my element. And that was also, I must say, where I met my creator, and where I met that I'm deserving of supernatural favor, right? This guy, as imperfect as it is, I'm not here to push any message or anything, but that's what that meant for me. That experience was
And
like,
how long were you in there? How long were you in
40 days.
there? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that experience for me was like, okay, nobody else can help me, not my attorneys, not my family, not anybody. I can't even help myself in this situation. So I had to reach out and up, and I made a promise. I said, as difficult as this thing looks right now, if you help me get through this, I'm going to share, and I'm going to attempt to impact this population. This is what I'm seeing right here. These,
Okay.
this uncertainty, this violent, violence, this everything that is seen behind, those gates.
Doors. Yeah. Yeah.
I got a chance to see a little bit of that.
Yeah.
The racism, the segregation, the unfairness, the so-called innocent people there, right? And a variety of other things with my eyes and with my supernatural eyes that were open around that experience. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
So was it like a real prison or something, or what?
It was a federal facility
Facility.
in.
Uh-huh.
So it had a lot more, how should I say, a lot more perks
Okay.
than
Was it
than
like a dorm, like where you had like rooms or something?
I was in a dorm with about 65 other grown men.
Okay, so it was a big like stadium, and then like cots or bunk bed style.
Yeah, bunk
Type
beds.
of
So
style.
there were
Okay, okay.
several of those.
Kind of like a shelter, like when they do those evacuation shelters in a way. I think that's how they do that too.
Probably, yes, probably. And so there were a lot of
Yeah, it's a light 65. Yeah.
a lot of gang activity, a
All of a
lot of.
sudden, you're just gonna be like, "Well, I guess I'll be sharing my room with 65 people." Like, woo.
Oh yeah, no, wide open. Bathrooms are open. You have no like
Oh, no privacy and everything.
privacy.
Okay,
You
so it's a
are,
huge. Okay, okay, it's
yes.
very
This
open.
is you under custody. This is not the
Yeah, yeah. It's not a luxury here. We're not
no
talking.
luxury.
We're
No,
talking
not
like
at all.
hostel level. You don't have like a separate bathroom.
No, none of that. None of that. It was a lot of you know uh
Did they feed
It was
you,
just to the
or
core.
did you have a kitchen?
No, no kitchen at all. No,
Okay, so
you go eat somewhere
basically a lot
else.
of waiting. It
You have
sounds
to
like.
cross the yard. Have to cross the
Yeah.
yard to eat somewhere else at a different location, different facility. You get counted several times a day, right? You get
Ah,
only a limited time to eat. Very
yeah.
structured. Very, you know, um, it's a federal facility. You know, there's people there. There's people there with no crimes. They were just working, right? And there were people, with different levels of security. So, from
Understandable. So what
from
got you out of it?
what's that?
How'd you get out? Did you were like, hey, we have to like have some proof that you've been here, and then we can
Oh
put
no,
you
they
in
had
the
proof. They
process?
had proof. I had to appeal. I had one last card in my deck, and that was to appeal. My so it took a process, right? It took a
Okay.
process,
Yeah.
and my attorney said, they don't really reverse a federal immigration judge unless he makes a mistake, but they don't really do that. The appeal can buy you maybe another 12 months here in the United States. You get to, be out and about. But she said, might as well, work, save your money, and find out where you're gonna go. And by the way, the appeal is gonna cost you another $10,000,
Oh,
right?
only,
Only an
only.
extra after I have exhausted,
I'm going through a
everything.
divorce, and I gotta
And
say how much, like the whole process and the wait time, how much it eats up just because you're waiting. It's just,
oh yes,
it's
exactly.
like,
And
you gotta be
basically,
kidding me. I mean, seriously, just
this
because we have to wait. Yeah.
that was after the judge had just, said his verdict. I'm like tearing, my mom's tearing, my brother,
You're
my
like,
brother's
when
mad at
am
me.
I gonna come up with $10,000? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and
yeah,
by the way,
sure.
Danny,
Yeah, I just have that. Let's just say that.
my attorney said, oh, and by the way, you have 5 business days to make that decision. 5 business days, right?
What was the other option that you would just leave?
Oh, the other option is I take the 30 days and I leave within the 30 days, and I leave.
You're just like, why go to a country I have no idea? I've never.
Exactly. I was so afraid of that, but I had already had a business here, and we were
Yeah.
planning to buy a house, and I was already married, and
Oh wow.
everything. So yes, so what happened? It was, it took a process and it took a miracle.
Yeah.
It didn't take 12 months for the um, Board of Appeals, which consists of 3 judges that don't know me at all. They just had a file in whatever. It didn't take them 12 months to reply to me or my case. It took them 23 months.
Yeah, that's
By then, I was so on an uncertainty. My uncertainty needle had just reached the red because I'm like, what is about to happen?
you
Like,
said that you're already married at this point, right?
yes, my
You were
wife,
saving
there's a
up,
lot of people depending on like this.
and then you
And
had your business and stuff too, and you're
yes,
looking at like, oh my god, I might have to like pack up and just leave.
imagine that.
That's
Imagine that. And so one day I went to check the mail, and I had the response. 23 months later, a 6-page letter was mailed to me, and I knew exactly what it was. And by then, I had relapsed. I had thought that I didn't deserve it. I was like, oh, I just blew it. I blew it. I was thinking, all these doors and miracles had opened for me. And during that wait, I wasn't patient enough. I wasn't disciplined enough.
yeah.
And I didn't know that letter was my redemption. That letter, that 6-page letter, first 6 pages were agreeing with the judge, with the federal judge, like, yes, we agree. I'm like, oh, second letter, yes, that we remember that. I'm like, oh, the 6th, and I have that letter stored. Um, the last paragraph on that letter said, but we, the Board of Immigration Appeals, reverse the judge's decision. Like they just reversed it.
And they're the say all. So yeah.
And And I fell on that floor, like right here. I fell on that floor
Yeah.
with tears of joy, crying and laughing at the very same time. I've never had those, those emotions come out of me.
Oh yeah. Well, you've
And
been
I would
holding it for so long, just
wipe my eyes and
yeah.
see if I really read it correctly. I will translate it in English and Spanish.
Then ask your wife, can you read that?
She wasn't here.
Oh, darn it.
My dogs are like licking me.
Oh
I'm on
yeah,
the
dogs.
floor.
They're good at that. Yeah, like, oh, what you were gonna play with us, right?
And I'm like, wait a second, did I read this right? Did I translate it right? Am I dreaming? What's going on?
Yeah.
I called my attorney and I said, I think we beat this case. I hadn't spoken to her in a while because I owed her money and I was dodging her. I said, if I get deported, how am I gonna pay for this lady? Like all these things. I called her. I said, I think we beat it. She's like, what do you mean? I said, look, I'm stopping by your office right now, and that's the way it went.
And she was like, no, you're good. You're done. You're just like, are you serious?
You're good. What's up with that invoice, right?
Yeah, true. So when are you going to start paying me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I had to, my attorney, they're good friends, right? So I had to, now they're good friends, but I had to say, hey, you have to understand, if I would have left, how was I supposed to pay?
Oh, I know.
You had that, we still owed her like more than half of it. And gladly, we were able to have everything resolved within the next 6 months. I was back in court, flashing that letter to the judge that deported me, respectfully.
Yeah.
And telling them how proud I will be to sing the national anthem and to pledge allegiance to the flag, because this is truly my country. I during this time of my involvement with this ministry, with this prison ministry, it's not just me, it's a bunch of us. There are a lot of people who have a lot more experience than I in that program. There are people who have not been through the system as I have, right? So my story, when I go in front of these men of all ages, I share my story. I don't go there with a book under my arm telling people what to believe.
Yeah.
But I just tell people, hey, this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
This is what worked for me. And
you're telling your message of hope to everyone already.
Exactly. So, I made a promise, and, it was interesting because when I made that promise, the promise didn't fulfill itself. Like I couldn't do it because obviously I didn't have the documentation, and my process was, I was fighting I fought this process for 9 years.
Wow.
I fought a deportation process for 9 years in court. My fulfillment of the promise that I made, right, got fulfilled 9 years after I made the promise. Like on the date, September 12th. That's when I told those guys, 9 years ago, those gates opened for me.
So 9 years ago would be where you were actually in the federal holding facility, and then
2006.
Okay.
This was 2006.
Okay.
When I had that
happen.
That desert. I went through a desert there and for 40 days, and that was mine.
But then, like, all the rest of the time was like court and waiting and junk.
I had to drive to Orlando every year. I had to drive to Orlando every year to present myself in court, and
where were you living at the time?
My dates were just postponed.
Okay, that makes sense.
My case was lost. They lost my case in the process.
That's what's happened to me. It's like, oh, we're gonna change that date. It's like, why? Well, so and so's going on vacation. It's like, what do you mean so and so's going on vacation? I'm not going on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. I had to take, days of work. I mean, it was another thing. I couldn't work because, and this is another thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't have a job because I didn't have a social security card, you know.
So you're just like, well, I guess
They,
I'm gonna be working
yeah,
for myself.
they
So
were
yeah,
onto me. They
yeah.
were onto me, and you know, they stripped me of, you know, the documentation that I was using, of course, and so I couldn't work, right? And
That's a good message though there too, because a lot of people, they always had that plan B, right? And I don't mean everybody, I just mean a lot of people think that, oh, if this fails, if this like endeavor that I'm getting myself into, this business that I'm starting, this product or service, I have a plan B. I can always go back to work with somebody. It's like, no, when you are like at the position that you know you don't have a choice other than to work for yourself, there is no plan B. There is no like, and that's how I feel too, because just because my position and the dynamics that go into my life already, I raised 3 kids. It's always been homeschooled, but always worked out of my house and things like that. So in my dynamics, I don't have that choice either. I'm just like, just because the way I built my life, there is no plan B, you know? So yeah.
exactly. Yes, it's one of the traits I would think. So adversity. I heard this from Les Brown in a recent segment that I was listening to. Les Brown said, "Adversity is where a man finds himself or herself." Right? He got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was very, very vivid. That quote. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, yes. Because if I didn't go through that,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have, you know, chosen a career. I probably would have chosen, you know, a job where I, you know, feel comfortable. You know,
Oh yeah.
I did the office thing. I did the 9 to 5 thing or the 7 to 7 thing, right? So I'm no stranger to hard work. I'm not a stranger to getting my hands greasy and, you know, like literally and figuratively and getting to work, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've done, you know, labor work, and I had a remodeling company, right? So I've done the, you know, the immigrant, you know, so quote unquote, and I
I
don't
know
know
what
if
you
your
mean.
I don't know if your
Yeah.
listeners are seeing me or but I am doing
Oh,
the quote. I'm doing the quote
the
thing,
quotes.
right?
We're doing the quotes
The
here.
air quotes.
The air
Uh,
quotes. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I totally
I
know.
did this, you know, I was a waiter, and I, you know, bartender,
Oh
and
yeah. So you diversified to find where your
yeah,
strengths
so I'm
are.
not
I
scared
did
of,
the same thing. I did the same thing.
you
I've done
know,
everything. Yeah.
my mom raised us. My mom raised us as a waitress. She did that for 11 years. She would come
Wow.
every day after work and count her dollars, you know,
Yeah.
tips. And she used to tell us how kids would like laugh at her because she wouldn't understand what they're ordering or whatever. And so I have a tremendous respect for people in the service industry. I have tremendous respect for, for people who give more than they, uh, more than, you know, what's spared to them,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So that same story leads me to, hey, you know, if I can get to touch one kid that's maybe about to get out of prison and doesn't know what to do, it's probably going to end up there with a heavier charge, because
Our
that's how it
gentleman
is. That's what it
yesterday,
goes for.
Asmar, said he went to prison 3 times before he learned his lesson. What really pulled him out is the birth of his son.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I
that
looked up to
he was
that
just
man.
stuck in the cycle. Did you hear it yesterday? That was Asmar, Gary. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but yeah, we
I
got through it.
I was so glad to see him on the lineup because Asmar is one of my business partners.
Oh, awesome! That's amazing.
We met
Oh, that's awesome.
we met through social media. We live in
Uh,
Jacksonville, Florida, and we
oh,
are
he was
in
just
the very same sub niche.
interesting. That is
Yeah.
so cool. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, did you meet at 10X? I see the 10X thing up
Oh,
there.
he actually did not go there,
Yeah, I
but
missed it too, but
we went to Austin, Texas for one of the conferences by the software companies that we use to
yeah,
to build our chat automation systems. So
yeah, very cool.
yeah, he is he's an example of beating the odds, right?
Yeah,
And he teaches me things that he doesn't even know, or I get to share,
So do you guys network between each other? Because he does chat
every
bots.
time,
You
every
usually do
time,
chat
every
spots
time.
too?
After,
Okay.
after this, we're probably gonna get on a Zoom because we are, we're hiring, a new person to come on board. We have
Yeah.
projects, that we're working,
Cool.
so joint ventures. So yeah, we network a lot, and now that they're going to reopen the programs for the prisons, he's also interested in, in joining and
Doing
sharing
that.
his story. Hopefully in July they'll reopen. This pandemic has put a stop, to this outreach,
A lot of things,
and
yeah.
it'll be interesting to know, what statistics are coming out of those, that population, because we don't get to hear that much, too many numbers on that population.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, what's going on in prisons? Because
Yeah.
they are really tight quarters.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
interesting. Yeah, we don't have statistics that we see on that.
We
I
see
never
all kinds
really
of
thought about
statistics
that.
in the
Yeah.
media, right? All kinds of
Oh
skewed
yeah.
statistics, but we don't
Well,
hear
not
anything
me.
about.
I actually got rid of my television last February, so I'm not, only thing I see is what comes across social media,
But yeah,
and a lot of that. I've learned how to block and and limit
you
my
have to, you have to, you have to. Yes,
yeah. It's definitely needed, especially around now. My goodness. Uh,
yeah, because they'll get you. They get you. Their pros
Oh,
are
it did.
bombarding.
I was like, I don't even have television. I don't even know why I'm getting sucked into this stuff.
Yes, yes,
I was like,
absolutely.
how'd this happen? Why am I looking up statistics like every morning now? And I'm getting all stressed
Yes,
out about it. I was
yes,
like, I need to
yes.
breathe and just
Yes, they'll put those seeds of doubt, of
yeah.
fear in your mind, I'll just take it with a grain of salt, whatever I get from here or there. I'm not necessarily on television. In fact, it was brought back upstairs because he was down here for a while, and I was like, "Ooh, no, no, put it back upstairs."
What's that? What's that?
The TV, the TV.
Oh, the TV. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you need to keep that as far away as possible sometimes.
yeah.
Definitely. So, Danny, where can people find you and about your business?
Well, I have a personal page, DannyMonzon.com, and there you'll find my social channels. The name of my agency is DM Digital here in Northeast Florida, and that website is being developed. So, but for now, DannyMonzon.com.
Okay, that's easy. DannyMonzon.com. Awesome. So, anything else that you like to tell everybody before we start closing out here?
Um, Yes, a few things. So first of all, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. You
Yeah.
are actually countering all these other media efforts to install fear and lack of self confidence and all this stuff through to presenting some of us who are still learning, but who have achieved, who have overcome. I should say, overcome should be the name of my book, but overcome, some extreme hardships, right?
Thank you.
And yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Second of all, I put a lot of things on social, and as you're going to see, my style is not to show off. My style is to show what's possible, right? Because if this guy could do it with, all that baggage and all these unfounded limitations and other real limitations that I faced in the past, if I could do it, man, anybody can. So that's my message. Keep doing what you're doing, and trust me, after all that hardship, after dragging yourself through the mud, if you really want it, the universe will conspire for you and open doors that you'll never thought would be possible. Trust me.
Love that. Love that. Yes, it does always work out in the end. It always does. Yeah. As long as you don't stay in that bad spot, then you can't be drowned out by your own like problems and issues and things
Yeah,
that come after you. 'Cause there's
absolutely.
always going to be something. There's always going to
Always
be
will be
something.
something, and
Yeah.
don't take it so hard on you if you have a setback. Just make yourself stronger from that setback and bounce even higher, because I had setbacks, and it's no fun. That self-blame, it doesn't serve you. In
Yeah.
fact, just embrace those setbacks as moments where you say, you know what, I know I'll bounce higher after this, so it's all good.
Yeah,
Accept
definitely.
yourself. Yes.
Definitely. Well, thank you for coming on, Danny. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure having you on here. Thank you for sharing your story about New York and all that excitement to, the federal facility, and then, everything that entailed, all those years of like pushing through the system just to feel at peace. And
Yes, it
that's
wasn't as exciting as it sounds right now for me or for my family, but it is in fact part of the story that cannot be omitted.
No, it's good. No, it's sometimes you need that back story, that back past to really appreciate everything that's to come, everything that life brings your way from here on out. So thank you again
Absolutely.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So guys, thank you for listening. You were listening to the One Up podcast. You can watch all these videos also at amina.media in your browser to go to the YouTube channel. To get the links to the podcast, you can go to anchor.fm/oneup to get those. And today we just finished up episode 20 with Danny Monzon, right?
That's correct. You got it.
Yes, I got it. And so Danny had an amazing story that he shared here today on the live. So I'm grateful for anybody that's actually watching the live right now. You definitely are amazing. Also, I see a couple people on now. Anyhow, guys, thank you again for being here and supporting the channel. And make sure you share the message of hope. This is Message of Hope, stories from struggle to success. I'll pass the message on. We need more positivity in this world. Thank you so much, Danny. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.